She was 7 years old, standing on a public sidewalk with a violin, playing for strangers who had no reason to stop. Within a few years, that same girl would have more YouTube subscribers than most major record labels could dream of reaching. Her name is Karolina Protsenko, and the story of how a Ukrainian child busking on the Santa Monica Promenade became one of the most watched musicians on the internet is not what most people expect it to be. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the algorithm found her, and why, once it did, it never let go. Before the cameras, before the millions of views, there was a stretch of pavement in Santa Monica, California. Karolina Protsenko was born in Ukraine in 2008. Her family relocated to the United States when she was still very young, eventually settling in Southern California. Like many immigrant families building a new life, her parents wanted to give her a structured childhood, and music was central to that. She began studying violin formally at a young age, the kind of disciplined, classical training that parents invest in hoping their child will develop patience and focus. Nobody was thinking about YouTube at that point. Nobody was thinking about viral videos. They were thinking about scales, posture, and bow technique. But somewhere around the age of 6 or 7, Karolina started busking on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, a famous outdoor shopping and entertainment corridor where street performers of every kind compete for foot traffic and tips. She wasn't there because the family needed the money. She was there because performing in front of real people, with real reactions, was a completely different education from anything a classroom or practice room could offer. She played classical pieces, she played pop covers, she played for tourists who paused mid-stride and stayed for 3 minutes. She played for people who never slowed down at all. Every single performance was an unscripted lesson in holding attention, in making a stranger feel something before they had any context for who she was. Her father started filming those performances and uploading them to YouTube. At first, they were simply family records, documentation. The idea that they could become anything more than that had not yet entered anyone's mind. And if you think that was the quiet before the storm, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. The early uploads accumulated views slowly, hundreds, then low thousands. Then came the cover of See You Again, the Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth tribute originally written for the Furious 7 soundtrack. Karolina recorded a violin cover of the song while still a young child. The emotional weight of the original, a song about loss and remembrance, translated through her playing in a way that stopped people completely. The video spread across Facebook shares, across parenting groups, across music communities. It was not a song that needed dramatic violin embellishment. It needed restraint and feeling. She delivered both. That video surpassed tens of millions of views. It became one of the most watched violin covers in YouTube history, not just among child performers, but across the platform entirely. It introduced her to an audience that had never heard her name before and turned them into subscribers who wanted to follow whatever came next. What made the timing significant was the state of YouTube in that period. The platform was still learning how to surface independent music creators. The algorithm was beginning to reward channels with strong watch time and repeat engagement, and Karolina's videos delivered exactly that. People did not click away from her performances. They watched to the end. They came back. The channel's subscriber count began climbing in a way that felt less like gradual growth and more like a door that had been opened and could not be closed again. By the time she was 10 years old, her channel had crossed 1 million subscribers. That number, which takes most adult creators years to reach, arrived before she had finished primary school. Most people who know this story stop here, but the real story starts right now. Behind the subscriber count was something more interesting than growth metrics. The years of sidewalk performing had created something unusual in Karolina as a musician. Most classically trained young violinists develop technical precision. They learn to replicate what is written on a page. Karolina had that training, but she had layered something on top of it that is much harder to teach: the ability to read a room and adjust. When you perform on a street corner, the audience votes with their feet in real time. If something is not working, they walk away. There is no applause at the end to soften the lesson. You learn immediately whether what you are playing is connecting, and you learn to make adjustments mid-performance without stopping, without acknowledging the shift, without breaking the spell. That responsiveness, that instinct for what an audience needs emotionally in any given moment, showed up directly in how she chose covers, how she interpreted them, and why her recordings felt like live performances even in a studio environment. Her cover selections were never random. She gravitated towards songs with enormous cultural footprints, pieces that audiences already had emotional memories attached to. She was not asking viewers to discover something new. She was handing them something familiar, and showing them they had never quite heard it like this before. That is a much harder thing to do than it appears, because it requires the performer to bring their own interpretation without overriding the emotional association the listener already has. By her early teens, she was not simply playing other people's songs. She had begun composing original pieces and developing a performance identity that went beyond her child prodigy origins. Here's what the comments kept asking, and here's the answer they never got, until now. No story about Karolina Protsenko is complete without acknowledging the infrastructure that made it possible. Her mother has been central to managing her career from the earliest busking days forward. This is not unusual in cases involving young performers. Parental management is standard, but the particular way her family approached the channel shaped its trajectory significantly. The videos never attempted to manufacture a persona. There were no dramatic reaction shots, no staged moments, no artificial conflict inserted to drive clicks. What the camera captured was a girl playing violin, presented with the simplicity that the performance itself warranted. That restraint was a strategic decision, whether or not it was always a conscious one. The YouTube landscape in the years when Karolina's channel was growing was already filling with content designed to feel urgent, sensational, and disposable. A child playing violin in natural light, with clean audio and no unnecessary editing, stood out precisely because it asked nothing of the viewer except attention. The channel expanded carefully. New video formats were introduced gradually. Studio recordings followed busking footage, then more polished productions, then collaborations with other musicians. Each expansion felt like a natural evolution rather than a brand pivot. Subscribers who had come for the sidewalk performances found that the channel had grown in the same direction they had. Her family also made one decision that had lasting structural consequences. They kept the content family-friendly at every stage, which meant the channel remained eligible for the broadest possible advertising categories on YouTube. That single fact, compounded across years of growing viewership, has significant financial implications. And that's when the decision was made, the one nobody around her saw coming. At some point, every cover artist faces the same crossroads. The audience that finds you through a cover of a famous song is an audience that already loves that song. Converting them into fans of you, specifically, of your own creative voice rather than your ability to interpret someone else's, requires a different kind of risk. Many musicians who build audiences on covers never successfully make that transition. They remain associated with a specific catalog or a specific era, and the channel plateaus. Karolina began releasing original compositions before most people in her audience expected her to. The pieces she wrote drew on her classical training but were not strictly classical. They incorporated elements of contemporary instrumental music, the kind of melodic composition that sits in the space between film scores and independent artist releases. The response from her audience was more positive than it might have been for another creator, because the years of cover performances had already established what she sounded like when she was at her best. Audiences knew her tone, her phrasing, her approach. Original music was a continuation, not a departure. She also expanded into collaboration, working with other musicians, both online creators and more traditionally established performers, broadened her audience without requiring her to change the core of what she was doing. Each collaboration introduced her to a new subset of listeners who might not have searched for a violin channel on their own. What the channel represented, by the time she reached her mid-teens, was something genuinely unusual in the YouTube music space. A performer who had grown up entirely in public, whose entire artistic development had been documented and distributed, and who had managed to maintain audience trust through every phase of that development without a significant controversy, departure, or creative collapse. What happened next is the reason this story spread across the internet. ARN. The 10 million subscriber milestone on YouTube means different things in different contexts. For a gaming channel or a lifestyle vlogger, 10 million represents a large but not exceptional audience. For an instrumental musician playing classical-influenced violin covers and original compositions, it is almost without precedent. The space that Karolina occupies is not a mass-market entertainment category. It is a niche, and niches have ceilings. The fact that she broke through those ceilings and did so without pivoting to a broader or more commercially generic sound says something specific about the audience she built. The demographic that watches her channel is multi-generational in a way that is rare. Younger viewers discovered her as a peer growing up in front of the camera. Older viewers, parents, grandparents, were drawn in by the cover selections and stayed for the musicianship. That cross-generational appeal is not an accident. It is the direct result of building a channel on timeless, emotionally resonant music performed with genuine skill rather than on trends that cycle out every 18 months. The business reality behind those numbers is also worth understanding. A channel with 10 million subscribers in a brand-safe, family-friendly, music-focused category is one of the most valuable properties on the platform from an advertiser perspective. The CPM rates, the amount advertisers pay per thousand views, in that category are significantly higher than in categories like gaming or reaction content. The channel is not just large, it is structured in a way that maximizes the value of every view it generates. She never talked about this publicly, until now. As of 2025, Karolina Protsenko is in her mid to late teens and continues to post actively. The channel has not slowed. If anything, the production quality of recent uploads reflects a creator who has taken deliberate steps to evolve the visual and sonic presentation of the content to match the level of the audience she has built. The busking footage that started everything is now part of her origin story, rather than her current identity, though street performance remains part of how she describes what shaped her. She has performed in formal concert settings, a transition from YouTube channel to live performance career that many digital-first musicians attempt, and few manage cleanly. The difference in her case is that the live performance skills were there before the platform was. The Santa Monica Promenade had already trained her for audiences who had not pre-purchased their belief in her. Her original compositions continue to be released alongside cover performances, and the balance between the two has shifted meaningfully toward originals as she has grown into her creative voice. The artist who began her public life playing for strangers who had no reason to stop is now choosing what story she wants to tell and building the technical and commercial infrastructure to tell it. The girl on the sidewalk is still in every frame, but she is not the whole picture anymore. What Karolina Protsenko's story ultimately demonstrates is that the most durable audiences are built on something real, a genuine skill developed in public without shortcuts. She did not go viral because someone engineered a moment. She went viral because a child played beautifully on a sidewalk, and her father filmed it, and the internet recognized something it does not encounter very often. Authenticity, at scale, is almost impossible to manufacture. She did not manufacture it, she lived it. The next chapter of her story is one she is writing herself, in original compositions, in live performances, in creative decisions that no longer require her family to make on her behalf. She is building the kind of career that does not depend on any single platform, which is exactly the kind of career a musician who has already outgrown every expectation should be building. So here is the question for you. Do you think Karolina should lean further into original music and step away from covers entirely? Or is the balance between the two exactly what makes her channel work? Drop your answer below.